Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this one. It took a long time to get it finished. I originally started this probably a year ago. But you know what they say, life is what happens while you're making other plans. At any rate, I like the way it turned out. Some audio projects stem from a particular need. For example, say you need a set of bookshelf speakers in a spare bedroom. Then you have a specific reason to design that set of speakers. This project did not start out that way. I mean, I definitely don't need more subwoofers in my house. No, this project came about because of the introduction of the new Dayton Ultimax Series 2 subwoofers, which came out toward the end of 2024. They were very well received, and I kind of had my eye on the 8-inch version. I started doodling some cool cabinet designs, as I often do, and ended up with this basic idea. A leather-wrapped enclosure with dual-opposed passive radiators on the sides with a nice hefty wooden top. Modeling it in WinISD looked to yield some pretty good results. So, of course, I got even more excited. That's how it starts. The Dayton Audio SPA 300D 300-watt plate amp seemed to be a perfect match for this. So, you keep messing with it, then things start falling into place, and before you know it, you're placing an order from Parts Express, and you've got that tingly feeling in your stomach because you know you're about to start a new audio project. Okay, so that's how this project got started. Now let me give you some of the specifics. This cardboard box basically just a proof of concept, just to make sure that the opposing passive radiators will both fit inside the cabinet and do so without contacting the frame of the driver. I could stick my hand in there, and there's about the thickness of my middle finger from here to here worth of space. This is actually the inside dimensions of the cabinet. That's why I built it this way, just to let me know that this is all going to bolt up and I'm not going to get the cabinet finished and have stuff smacking into each other. Should be good. WinISD can tell you your cabinet volume, but you still have to translate that into a set of drawings that you can get your panels cut out from. So these sketches have all the boards and their sizes on them, so I can get them marked up and cut out on the table saw. This cabinet has several cool features that make it stand out, including the slanted back angle. You can call it italicized if you want, but however you describe it, it sits at about a 9-degree angle. See what the angle is here. I basically matched this angle up with the angle on the actual enclosure. I'll try to see if I can sort of measure it here. Well, I need my glasses, I can't see anything. Alright, so we got, this thing has little numbers on it, it's really hard to tell. 80, 81. I'd say it's like 81 degrees, I'm guessing. Well, this matches this. This is about the angle that I want. I can start cutting the other boards to fit into the top. This is the side, the top, and the bottom. The bottom is going to be longer than this because it's on an angle. So I'm going to have to cut an angle on both of these. This is the same angles that I have here. It's always good to do a test cut on a scrap just to make sure you got things right. Alright, so I'm getting ready to cut this. I need an angle like this cut on this board, and that means that I've got this angle here resting against the fence. The only thing is, the fence doesn't quite go down that low. So what I need to do is, I need to supplement the fence with an additional piece of fence. And for that, I use a piece of 1/8 inch hardboard. And that means that when I press this against this, don't know if you can see that, but the bottom of this is resting against the hardboard instead of trying to tuck underneath the edge of the fence, which is not going to yield a good cut. Anytime you got the blade on a bevel there, it can do some strange things you're not used to. But this here is going to keep that angle flush against the fence or against this and not try to tuck under. So of course that means your measurements are off, but that doesn't really matter because like I said, I'm going to sneak up to the size and sort of nibble away until I get to the right fitment on the actual piece over there. Okay, so this isn't an exact science for me. I just get the sizes approximate and then sneak up on the actual size of the previously cut boards. As long as everything fits correctly and there are no gaps, it's all good. Let me just piece it together and give you a little look here. Yeah, that's why I like to sneak up on things, is if you make a mistake and take a little too much, then you're still okay. So you can see sort of the angle of the subwoofer there. And this is the outside dimensions. So let me get that side panel on, see where we're at. We're looking pretty good. Side panel. Nice. All right, well, that is, to me, looking pretty good. So what we've got here is we've got the cabinet, basically all the panels constructed and fitted up, and we're on our way. Now, since I planned on putting some rather large roundovers on the vertical corners of this cabinet, I felt I needed to reinforce those corners so there would be enough strength. I ended up ripping down some 2x4s down to 2x2s and then cutting them in half diagonally on the bandsaw to get this kind of triangle shape. Alright, so I got the braces in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue the brace to the front panel. I'm going to glue the brace to the back panel. I'm going to do it very carefully. I'm going to clamp a sacrificial board to it just to make sure that it lines up well when I go to glue things together. Kind of hard to describe, but it should be more clear when I get it out and show you. Since the bottom of the enclosure is on an angle in relation to the slanted front and back, I cut the triangle pieces of ripped 2x2 on an angle at the bottom to fit snugly. Also, the two front pieces are a smidge longer than the back. Anyway, I scuffed the MDF, applied some Titebond 2 wood glue, and used these spring clamps to hold them until the glue cured. Because only one side of each piece of bracing was actually clamped, since it was in the shape of a triangle, it had the tendency to want to rotate a bit and not sit flush to the panel that it was being glued to. But with some fiddling, I got them to sit correctly, and this glue up went just fine. What I'm cutting here is a 1/2 inch piece MDF board to glue behind the woofer to add some extra thickness, as the Ultimax driver will be recessed and it has a pretty thick mounting flange. If I just recessed it into the 3/4 inch MDF, there wouldn't be much meat for the 8 screws to bite into. Alright, so the glue's cured and everything seems like it's set up pretty good. When I set this on the side, it seems like it sits fine. Same thing with that. But this one here, I'm not sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run each of these pieces that are the same width, the 10-inch width or whatever it is, the top and the bottom and the front and the back. I'm going to run them through the table saw. I'll just take just a scooch off. That's not going to affect anything. It's just going to shore up each side and make sure that everything fits right. When I was gluing this to this, it's possible that it got slightly out of alignment. 2x4s are not perfectly straight, you know? So I'm going to just take a little bit off of both sides of all of these pieces, and that way everything's going to be the same size. When we go to glue it together, everything should fit good. Okay, so we've got the amplifier here. This is the Dayton Audio SPA 300-D. 300 watt plate amp, pretty small. I've used this before, it's actually really good. What I'm gonna do is, rather than just mount this in the rear of the subwoofer enclosure, I'm gonna create its own little box. I know it's sealed, it's a sub amp. It's got this black mastic sealant, whatever, that's supposed to protect it, keep it airtight, but I think vibrations are bad for electronics, and I like to always keep my amps in a separate enclosure whenever it's possible. All right, so I think I've got what I want to do here. If we keep in mind that we're going to be mounting the amplifier in a cabinet that is 3/4 inch MDF, so you got 3/4 of an inch. All the rest I need for an interior enclosure is going to be 1 3/4 inches of depth. So that doesn't take up too much space inside the box. So I think I'm just going to do that. That way the amp will sit flush with the outside and we'll have a minimal intrusion onto interior cubic volume. So I got my pieces marked out here. I'm going to create the sub enclosure with 1/4 inch MDF and 1/2 inch MDF. The sides and the top and the bottom are going to be 1/4 inch, and and the back itself is going to be 1/2 inch. So let's get these cut out. It's pretty quick and easy to do this. I don't really think it's necessary, I don't know, but for some reason I still do it. I'm not sure why. I guess I just like to make more work for myself, but I just feel like it's more safe to do this and protect the amp from vibrations or flexing. I don't know. They survive just fine without it, but I do it. Don't know why. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, I use Gorilla Glue to hold this little box together. There. Now, what would be a good weight to put on here to build an amp for a subwoofer? I got it. A subwoofer. All right, so I'll let that sit for about an hour, hour and a half, and we can come back and start working with it. After a little sanding and easing of the corners on my stationary belt sander, I marked out the opening for this amp box on the back of the enclosure. And then using my jigsaw, I created the cutout. I'm not sure if you've been counting or if you've even noticed, but I've probably worn 6 or 7 different shirts at least so far in this video. This project took me a long time to get done for whatever reason, so yeah, there's been a lot of wardrobe changes. Anyway, we're just about ready to glue the enclosure together. Finally. I've got my panels ready. I've scuff sanded all the flat areas where they're going to join. I've got my risers here so I can get clamps underneath. I've already laid this out and dry fitted everything, and I think it should work. You never know, so let's get to gluing. Here we see the big guy gluing the panels together. And things were going along so smoothly until... I'm going to press this against this backboard because it wants to slide this way. A little tough to describe, but because of the fact that the bottom's on an angle. So, yeah, I probably should have seen this coming, but basically the only issue is when you try to clamp 2 panels and one of the mating surfaces has an angle on it, it's going to want to slide the more clamping pressure you apply. So I just screwed in a temporary board to prevent any panel movement until the glue set up.